I greet you all, viewers all over the world of Maladitu Broadcasting and listeners of Maladitu Broadcasting. I want us to really pay attention to the explanation that my brother is going to explain on the borders of Africa. Before we can talk about the diamonds, the gold, and all other things that we'll talk about in the next video, but let us carefully listen to the explanations of the borders in Africa.
There is a statement that has become extremely common in modern political discourse, and I want to address it today. We hear it repeated in classrooms, on social media, in political speeches, and even in Pan-Africanist cycles. The statement says, I quote, "Africa had no borders before colonialism," close quote. Now, emotionally, many people understand why this statement became popular. It became popular because it was meant to challenge the violence of colonial partition. It was meant to expose how European powers sat in Berlin and carved Africa with rulers in ink as though Africans did not exist. That criticism of colonialism is valid. But the conclusion that Africa had no borders is historically and factually incorrect and inaccurate. What Africa did not have were European borders. That we all know. What Africa did not have were geometric cartographic lines surveyed by bureaucrats sitting in distant capitals. But Africa absolutely had territorial systems. That's why we have different languages. Africa had frontiers. Africa had grazing boundaries. Africa had hunting territories. Africa had river borders. Africa had ecological zones. Africa had spheres of kingship authority. Africa had sacred lands. Africa had transition territories. And in Southern Africa, among Basotho communities, one of the words used for such a border was Moedi, and it still is today. Or if you like, Moleloa. This is not a line. It is not a fence. It is not a coordinate. But a zone, a threshold, a place one crossed carefully, a place where the land itself told you that you were leaving one territory and entering another. I want to explain why this matters. Many years ago, while traveling from Durban in towards the inland plateau associated with the land called Basotho, now called Free State, I noticed something that remained with me for decades. And I hope this is going to help these people who are claiming Free State to be Basotho land. They don't know what they are talking about. Some distance between Howick and Ascot, the landscape begins to change. Not only the altitude, everything changes. The vegetation changes, the smell changes, the air pressure changes, the horizon changes, the atmosphere changes, and strangely, the body changes too. If you're traveling from Durban towards Gauteng this weekend, please make sure you notice those changes. One suddenly feels as though one has entered another territory long before crossing the official provincial border. In other words, you are in Free State long before you are in Free State. The land itself begins to feel familiar, stable, open, and predictable. The coastal tension disappears. And for many years I asked myself, why does the body recognize this translation before the map does? Why? Our modern geography will explain this partly through altitude and escarpment systems. And yes, scientifically that is true. But the ancient Africans already knew this. They did not need satellite to understand borders or draw lines to understand borders because the land itself announced them. The grass changed, the winds changed, the soil changed, the river changed. The body knew when these things